Okay. And where can we find your show? Can we link to it from worldfreemansociety.org?
It's better reached at tinyurl.com/WFS podcast.
tinyurl.com WFS podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Got that. Okay. And hours of your show?
It's 3 hours long, and we can help you with a lot of these. If you've got mortgage problems, we've got police problems, or you've got court problems of some sort, or whatever, we can shut these things down pretty easily.
Really? Okay. So, all right. Well, let me. So you don't do the impeaching witnesses and judge things, right?
We don't go into the court unless no SWAT team shows up. That's what I'm saying. You need to know a variety of these different systems, because the mark system really helps. If you're standing in there and you've got to deal with it, that really does help.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The minute you enter their
trying to keep
jurisdiction
out in the first place.
Well, yeah, but the minute you enter their jurisdiction, you're not entering as you, the human being. You're entering as the person. This birth certificate, and you're the surety for this bond. It's just insanity. We live in a very crazy world.
And is there a way around that, though? They have the badges and guns, so if they say you're going to do this or owe us that, then, we kind of have to do it, don't we?
Yeah, if you're forced by force into these situations, you can do things under duress. And then later on, you can revoke your signatures and things like that. It turns out that the notary is an officer of the court and is the wild card in their deck. The notary can act as a judge, a bailiff, a lawyer, whatever it takes. And it uses the idea that when they don't respond, they have dishonored the notary. And when they don't respond, they have consented. So you tend to write your notices in ways that when they don't respond, they've agreed to it. And then later on, you send them like a judgment, which the notary can do. The notary can send a jurat, these are true court orders, just like a judge signed it. And we've all been brainwashed.
But you're saying that you would do this before you were brought up in the system, whether it was for a traffic ticket or a lien, or so it's a more proactive method?
Well, the ticket tells you of a certain amount of time to reply. They'll give you a court summons, but it mentions that you can respond in a certain amount of time. It'll give you a date, but it'll also – those things are if you don't respond properly. Of course, you don't know how to respond properly. There's a lot of information on how one does this. We had this common law system in America for 137 years. Then they pushed the Admiralty law of the sea on us, or it can also be referred to as the European Roman fascist system. And in that system, you're a child. You're a ward of the state. So the minute you enter their jurisdiction and plead, you have lost in a way. You can't work within their system very effectively unless you're impeaching the witness, the only witness against you. That's what Mark does, things like that. Those things do work. But
okay, so let's say you're brought up in, let's say for some crazy reason, social worker and sheriffs, burst through your door and steal your children, and then 24 hours later come up with some bogus charges. You spend a few days in jail. How would you, and your procedure, how would you approach that?
Well, from the jail?
You're in jail, you have a $50,000 or $10,000 bond, and so somebody technically now owns you, so you kind of have to show up in court. How would you proceed with those fake charges and the kidnapping?
Well, you're bonded to answer. And many people don't know how to answer properly. Most people don't know how to answer properly, so you have to go into court. They think that's how you do it. But you can answer with the notary. You can send in your papers. You can send in, yeah.
Okay, so you're saying you don't actually have to wait for that court date. You can respond to whatever their allegations are and start filing things before you go to the kangaroo court.
I just had a bunch of problems myself. and I resolved them completely with the notary. If I had gone into the court, though, that day, even I, who knows a little about this, panicked at the end of it, right before the court date, and thought, if I don't go, they're going to declare me as a default judgment because I didn't show up. So my other friends who were working on this, they said, hold on a minute, don't go in there. And when we looked the day of the case, having not gone in, it's a case dismissed because they finally read my motion and all that, and they realized that I had answered properly. If I had gone in after doing all the paperwork correctly, I would have lost because they would have just turned my paper over, not looked at it, and then just found me guilty on any basis they felt like. It wouldn't have mattered. They can do virtually whatever they want. I mean.
So you're saying you fought them, but not by going into court on their terms on the day they said. You did it outside of court.
In advance. They give you some time before the date, and it actually says on your paperwork, you're able to respond by this date, which I did.
Okay.
I prepared I made an ex parte motion or whatever. They were even sort of fairly, the other people in the court, not the judge, were fairly uneducated on these matters. They didn't even show it to the judge until the day of, apparently. It was an ex parte motion. It's for one party, not for the other party shouldn't be present when he reads it. And it was only dealt with the day of the case. But even then, I still won because I prepared my stuff properly. It was better than having appeared. If I had appeared, they would have ignored my paper.
Okay, and you're saying that you teach people how to do this at worldfreemansociety.org?
Yeah, and we actually help you live on our show.
And live on your show. Okay, so people can call in and say, hey, I got a ticket for driving without a license and insurance.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's something that you help people tackle?
Yeah, in the very short term, what you need to learn is this mantra: I do not consent.
Yeah, of course. One of my favorite sayings.
They're bargaining with you. Everything that they're doing that makes it appear that you have some obligation to do something are actually offers that they are contracting with you, and you don't realize that they've got every trick way for you to be responding and agreeing to these weird contracts that they are making with you. See, the way, what you need is like a Black's Law dictionary and things like that. When you look up some of these words that they're using, you realize that they don't mean anything that we think they mean. They're in legalese. Technically, a society is able to form its own language. And so I always thought that when people refer to legalese, they were just being sarcastic about lawyers or something. They're not. Society, the law society, or any society, like the World Freeman Society, can form its own language, and that's what they've done. And you think it means what it means in English. No, it means what they mean in Black's Law Dictionary or Valentine's. There's a few of them. And you, I mean, it's like night and day, two different words.
Yeah, well, basically, I guess whatever the judge thinks it means at that particular moment then becomes law, right?
You can use these same methods even if you did go into court, which nobody recommends you do. But they will call your name, and what they're referring to is your name in all caps, which is the name of the person. You're not the person. That's the birth certificate that they have floated in the bond market. And then they want you to identify yourself as surety for this bond. They can't charge you, the human being, because you're only under common law. The bond is a corporation. It's actually a security. A security is not safety. A security is a bond. And it is subject to the 60 million statutes and acts. You're not. And so if you never point to yourself, they won't point to you.
You're referred to with caps or not, I mean, you're still a body and they're still going to come for you for that bond, right?
As surety for it. And if you never identify yourself as that, they won't do it either. You can sit in that courtroom, and in fact, when they call your name, you can say, perhaps that is me. Can I see the paper? And when it's in all caps, you say, that's not me. And sit back down, and they will not point to you either. You know what I mean? And then they can't say you didn't show up. You showed up, but they cannot point to you as the accused. They need you to do it because then you're contracting, you're jumping into their jurisdiction. They're very dirty tricks. You know what I mean? Of trying to put you in there. Like if you go through this gate that they have, you know, the wooden gate with you're entering the ship. This is Admiralty.
Okay,
you know
so,
I mean?
all right, let's
land.
say that happens, and then your name is all in caps, and so you're there, but you didn't appear before the judge. Isn't that the same as a failure to appear, and
No.
won't they come after you anyways?
They know you know what you're doing. The minute you've even asked, can I see the paper, and then you go, that's not me, and go sit back down. Even the process of all rise and you stand up, you just contracted with them. It's just trick central. I mean, you
Okay,
can't
so
play
what
these
about
tricks.
when they say, okay, so that's not you, then who are you?
You don't have to. You're not answering that. You're not answering
just
that. You don't
refuse
even
to
have to have
answer?
ID. No, they won't play that trick with you.